What type of king was Jehoiakim in Judah, and what happened as a result? This is the question we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 2 Kings on Walking Through the Bible.
The glory of his cross.
Today we're going to be discussing 2 Kings chapter 24, verses 1 to 7. But before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to 2 Kings chapter 24, verse 1. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, 2 Kings chapter 24, beginning at verse 1. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his vassal for 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him raiding bands of the Chaldeans, bands of Syrians, bands of Moabites, and bands of the people of Ammon. He sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord, which he had spoken by his servants the prophets. Surely, at the commandment of the Lord, this came upon Judah, to remove them from his sight because of the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he had done, and also because of the innocent blood that he had shed. For he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which the Lord would not pardon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim rested with his fathers. Then Jehoiachin, his son, reigned in his place. And the king of Egypt did not come out of his land any more, for the king of Babylon had taken all that belonged to the king of Egypt, from the brook Egypt to the river Euphrates. We have been looking at the political situation in Judah following the death of Josiah. If you recall, during the days of Josiah, Huldah the prophetess had warned that God would punish Judah for her sins which he had committed, especially during the days of Manasseh, Josiah's grandfather. Not even Josiah's righteousness or his attempts to bring the people back to God would prevent this. And then, of course, Josiah died at the hands of Pharaoh Necco in 609 BC. Necho was on his way north to help the Assyrians fight the Babylonians, and in the meantime, Judah had made Jehoahaz, one of Josiah's sons, king in his place. When word got back to Necho that this had happened, he sent a contingent of his forces to depose Jehoahaz after only 3 months and install Jehoiakim in his place, which Necho placed under tribute. Jehoiakim would reign for 11 years in Judah and was a wicked king in the sight of the Lord. Neither 2 Kings or 2 Chronicles have much to say about Jehoiakim. However, the book of Jeremiah does, and to a lesser extent also the book of Daniel. And so it is from these books and from secular history that we have to piece together the time period of Jehoiakim's reign. Jehoiakim began his reign in about 609-608 BC. Of course, we know he was a vassal of Pharaoh Necco of Egypt for the first 3 to 4 years of his reign. However, Necho lost to Babylon at the Battle of Carchemish in 605 BC. This battle is the anchor date for all the dates in our chronology thus far, because secular history has pretty much pinned down when this battle took place, for there are many records of it. Thus, if the date of this battle changes, so would the approximate dates of anything that came before, both in secular and biblical history. With Necho losing at Carchemish, Egypt's sway over the region would diminish, allowing Nebuchadnezzar, who at that time was the commander of the Babylonian army, to come down and attack Jerusalem. The reason why Nebuchadnezzar is referred to as king is because it is who he would shortly become. And so since this was written after the siege, just like we do with King Charles III of England, we refer to people like this by their most preeminent title, even though at the time we're discussing that may have not been that. They might not have had that title. The writer of 2 Kings says that Nebuchadnezzar placed Jehoiakim under tribute and he became his vassal for 3 years. Why didn't Nebuchadnezzar simply take Jerusalem and destroy it? For after all, the prophets had prophesied of this. Well, perhaps Jehoiakim surrendered, and so Nebuchadnezzar decided to not completely destroy the city. We do know from the book of Daniel that Nebuchadnezzar took some of the articles of the temple at this time, along with taking captive some of the young men of the children of Judah, of which Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were part of. This was the first wave of the Babylonian captivity. However, from secular history, we know that something else happened. Nabopolassar, the king of Babylon, died shortly after 605 BC in the Battle of Carchemish. Nebuchadnezzar thus had to return to Babylon to ascend to the throne. Thus, the leaving of Jerusalem and Judah under tribute for a time may have been the result of that. In fact, at least chapters 1 and 2 of Daniel record the time between Jehoiakim being placed under tribute and his rebellion, for those events take place in the first and second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign in the book of Daniel. After 3 years, though, Jehoiakim rebelled. Why? Well, the Bible doesn't actually say, but secular history may give us a clue. In 602 to 601 BC, Nebuchadnezzar came up against Egypt and tried to conquer it, but failed. All he got to keep was from the river of Egypt, the border of Judah and Egypt, northward, which 2 Kings 23 verse 7 tells us. This defeat, though, most likely emboldened Jehoiakim to rebel against Nebuchadnezzar and stop paying tribute. Now, Nebuchadnezzar would eventually come to deal with Jehoiakim, but while recovering from his losses in Egypt, God sent bands of the Syrians, Moabites, and Ammonites to attack Judah, just as the prophets Isaiah, Micah, Jeremiah, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, and Huldah had prophesied would be the punishment for Judah's sins, especially during those sins during the days of Manasseh. However, with Judah's defenses softened, Nebuchadnezzar would return and besiege Jerusalem and conquer it, something that took about 6 months to complete, according to the Nebuchadnezzar Chronicle housed in the British Museum in London. It is during this siege in about 597 BC that Jehoiakim dies, though not in battle, and Jehoiachin, his son, takes the throne. We'll find out a little bit more about this short reign, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 2 Kings chapter 24, verses 8 to 20, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.